let's turn it around. Turn the world around. We're ready to put away the negative. There's negative out there, and we can find something positive. Take that anxiety and channel it a little bit better. All right, we're gonna work on this. I love it. Okay. You know, the more I'm getting more and more comfortable with tackling these difficult subjects, and I'm just really excited to get this one, this one, this one, and this one done. I'm gonna make them look as good as I can. Just really excited at the challenge. Now we only have about an hour, maybe a little over. I can go till about 2:15. Well, I think I can. Let me see here. Yeah. Not going to be a long stream. I am going to turn on the do not disturb. We'll be all right. I got my emails up, got my notifications around if I need them. Cool. Pop up the Discord. Okay. Get all that lined up. All right. Here we have, okay, this statue. I mean, maybe not even just the statue, but we can get some influence of the, it's subtle, but it makes a difference. The way the light, even though it's kind of ambient, sort of coming from behind camera, but it's wide, powerful and wide. There's not a lot of fall off. It's catching the edges of these stones. Any place there's a bump in the surface, it's sort of catching the edge. Reflecting some blue light back at the camera. Can do it here too. Andy, thank you. I am looking good. I hope you're looking good too. What do you think of the picture? Is it cool? Here, I've been enjoying the, what the heck is it called? Okay, the statue here. This old statue. What this is, Zelda statue NES. So it's literally this. This is this drawing. Okay, so here. Now this is a artwork version of the sprite. The sprite itself looks different. Let's see here. Oh, that's cool. Yes, statue. Dungeon statue NES. Something bad happened to my favorite website for Zelda stuff. So anyway, this is the art. It appears to be like a statue of one of the river people, the Zora, rendered as a statue, and they breathe fire, which is like the Zora. So I'm having this thing here as a homage to the that. It's not a character, I suppose, but it's an element in the original NES game. And the purpose here is to trigger old hats like me that remember that part of the game. Right, they used to, I wonder if I can find, I gotta find something. Zelda statue NES dungeon. Yeah, so here we go. This is like a meme, but we zoom in here. It's not believe it or not, some people watch this stream and they're not into Zelda. I'm like, what? Why do you even watch me? But it's flipped around the wrong way. But you can see eyes, a little mohawk, ears, or fins, and a big gaping mouth. Now these statues, sometimes they're inert, they don't do anything bad, and sometimes they breathe fire at you. They'll throw a fireball your way. And if there's like 10 of these on screen, it's crazy. It'll just be fire everywhere. So the real ones remember the terror of the fire-breathing statues. Trying to work up a sense of the influence of blue ambient light coming from near the, well, nearish from behind the camera, as if there was a cave entrance or a door to the outside. The infamy of the water temple should never be forgotten. Okay, we got a Ocarina of Time fan here. That water temple is crazy. That one, and actually, I think my hardest one was the inside of Jabu Jabu's belly, where you're actually Kid Link, but you're in the fish. That giant fish. That stuff was crazy. Water Temple was hard as hell. To this day, I avoid pools. Back when you didn't need trophies to feel something accomplished doing something in a game. Yeah. Dude, the rush of video games back in the day. Ugh. Stuff was difficult. I mean, Ocarina of Time, at the time, it was sort of like pre-internet days, you know? Not really, but unmitigated rage. There's a fun anecdote about my brother who he's more of a gamer than I, but he was so upset about losing a Mario Kart race that he punched his fist through my dad's projection screen TV. Left a big crack in it. It still worked. We just had to watch TV with a big crack in it, which sucked. But yeah, the EGM guide. Yeah, no punishment necessary. The punishment was staring at a TV with a big crack in it. It sucked for me, you know, growing up. I inherited that TV afterward, and it, you know, not an inheritance, but it was like far less attractive as a entertainment device after the fact, so no one minded me making it my own eventually. What are you up to, man? Are you, I hate to say it, keeping busy? I was supposed to start a job today. I was supposed to be on a job, 3 separate jobs this week, and they all sort of evaporated into nothing. One after the other. The one that I was waiting for today hasn't evaporated into nothing, but it got pushed another day, and it's just sort of becoming this like funny, ironic, unfunny, unironic reality of sort of waiting for clients to wait for their clients to get their stuff together or something. I'm not sure. What I'm hoping is that post-election, there will be a little bit more assurances that, you know, capitalism can continue unabated and we don't have to have some sort of existential crisis about what does America really want, and just working on this comic and pushing my own projects forward. All right, same here, at least for as far as right now. Yeah. I can get you. Yeah, I've been as time goes by, I'm realizing just like I really need to have backup plan for my backup plan for my backup plan now, because it just feels like it's hard to do business on like someone saying, okay, we're going to use you next week, and then they're like, oh, it got pushed, and they're like, okay, you know, things happen, but we still want you, how about next week? And they're like, okay, cool, you know, then it gets pushed again. It's been happening so often that it's like I don't know. Like, it used to, like, this stuff would happen, but it would be far more infrequent, and I don't know, or it would be at a time where demand wasn't low, so it wasn't low anyway, so it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna get hired on this other job anyway, so, you know, so sorry, but I can't wait around. But doesn't feel like it's real enough for me to bank on. Almost to the point of being ready to dive into the back end on my thing: business licenses, bank accounts, website setup, and all that. Okay, cool. That that feeling when you're ready to make it super serial. Let's see here. I mean, do you have a LLC or S Corp set up or anything like that? I mean, it's kind of tricky. The business models we bought into when we were into this industry are no longer the models businesses are based on now. It's like, I agree. I'm not really sure what to... I'm not sure. So I was kind of late to the game in terms of like, oh, I'll get set up on an S Corp and stuff like that. That was definitely like the go-to common knowledge 10 years ago. And I set up my S Corp 7 years ago. So I'm like incorporated and stuff, and I have a like a business bank account. S Corp has its benefits, but not for what we do, really. It does have its benefits, and again, it's, I think certainly without, I think I'm in the earnings range where like it can be worth the overhead. You know, there are a couple, at least there are minimum, like probably close to $3,000 worth of like overhead expenses in terms of like CPA costs and taxes specifically. S Corp election is better for having multiple people because of how the payout structure works. I think it used to be, what I'm happy about, at least with the S Corp stuff, is it did force me to button up and keep absolutely distinct the finances for my business versus how they get into my personal life. So it used to be more of a headache for me to separate out, like, okay, well, how do I do my taxes if I'm, you know, self-employed? I would do it all through TurboTax, and it would be very stressful, and there was no way for me to know I was doing it right. And now I just have all my credit cards and bank accounts for my business loaded into TurboTax. Everything there is legit as far as I'm willing to admit. And then it gets passed on to my CPA, who's like, this looks great, you know. And then, you know, further giving it the blessings and approvals of people who actually know what they're doing. And then the taxes as it comes. Now I pay taxes. I pay way too much in taxes in general, but now I actually get a income tax return because we overpay the stuff as we go, and then we get more back, and that's not really great. You're not supposed to pay more than you should, but it doesn't feel bad either. It feels like I'm doing taxes more or less like I would in a normal business, and I'm okay with that. And just knowing that it's like, okay, that's more or less. I don't know if I'm like getting all the crazy benefits, but it certainly isn't something that keeps me up at night in terms of not sleeping. So you seem to know about the tax stuff. If you, what are you, a sole proprietor? I mean, you don't have to tell me, but you seem to know, or have done some research. But the I've talked to 2 CPAs about it. One was like, definitely do the S corp. It was like the trend at the time for like creative professionals doing what I did. Everybody was doing the S corp stuff. And now it feels like that trend is a little passé. It may have to do with various changes in tax law or tax cuts or whatever. But all the like tax shenanigans that are sort of associated with that stuff was all sort of before my time. By the time I got into it, S corps weren't sexy anymore, and now I don't think anybody really recommends them for the kind of work that we do. It's been interesting because union work, by and large, doesn't want to pay you through an S corp. They want to treat you like an employee that works for like a week, you know, or whatever, and they withhold your taxes and stuff. It just basically comes down to, it's like, are you going to pay your taxes one way or another? You got to do it. You either do it sooner or later, and are you going to file your taxes yourself or pay a professional? So I am at the moment, my first business was retail, so we just used a normal LLC. My second one was my first with a partner a few years ago, and we went LLC with S corp election. Oh, so you have experience with this S corp election. The S corp essentially cost more, and they work better for larger amounts, and then multiple people getting paid out. Then what I'm about to start is going to be another standard LLC. Interesting. I have met artists with like tax problems, you know, and that feels like something I never want to deal with. So when it came down to it, I was like, okay, it's like I used the because my parents were creative professionals, so I used the same. I begged them to let me use their CPA for my business, and it's been working out fine. But one day, if I feel like I need to get a second opinion, I don't think I'd hesitate. I think I could be paying less in taxes, but for now, I'll count my blessings. Honestly, a good CPA is more important than anything else. They can tell you the best path forward at any time that you take. It's interesting because it's like there's a lot of things that would apply well to my business, but then they don't necessarily, like when you have to factor in your entire life with this stuff too, because I'm married and I have kids, and like I have whereas like I think if it was just me, I could get away with so much more. If I was unmarried and it was just me, basically, you could, I mean, theoretically write off so much more, and pay myself so much less. Over the years, though, like we've had to qualify for. See, here's the thing: is like, no matter what you do, just keep you. This is not advice to you. Obviously, you take good care of your shit, so. There's more to the ether, but the treat your business, if you're making money through art, you still got to treat it like a business, because eventually you're going to want to do stuff like apply for loans. Like if all goes well, you might actually attract a mate, and you have to then deal with the fact that, like, hey, you know, normal people who aren't artists like to buy homes, apply for loans, and do that sort of adulting. And you need to be prepared for, like, hey, proving to a bank that you can rub two nickels together or pay back a loan if that ever comes to it. It's definitely a thing you won't regret starting early, I think. But that is also another thing, because, like, I definitely had that, like, imposter syndrome thing where it was like, okay, well, I'm not really making money as an artist, am I, or whatever. Even when I was, it felt like I couldn't possibly be. So it was a little silly, but, you know, knowing what I know now, I really should have started much sooner. Oh well. Probably everything is that way. And he says, good accounting practices make everything easier as long as you can afford it, especially if you grow into having payroll. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all my stuff is through payroll now. And hell, anybody doing con should be writing all of that off. Yeah, I write off essentially all of my travel, all of my parking, all of my Ubers, all anything that touches on, and this is what was my CPA's advice, and they were like, listen, anything that essentially touches your business in any way, you know, write it down as part of your deductions. We'll review things, and if it looks like things are going too far, we will let you know. So, like, when I had, I think you know about this, like, Zach and I hosted, like, a storyboard artist party here at my house. And I'm like, I got this. I took my business card to Costco with my business membership to Costco, and bought $400 in drinks and then another $300 in pizza. And it all went on the business card, you know. And there's some leftovers, and, you know, who's to say what happens to that? But definitely, there was no question there. That's all legit business expense, pretty much. You know, and, like, I think it's here's the truth about accounting, is it's a creative industry. It's a very creative industry, is finance and accounting. These are extremely creative people, and they understand the act of creativity, the role that creativity can play. I'm sure every CPA has their threshold for shenanigans, and my CPA's threshold is pretty low. It must be, or sorry, theirs is they have a low tolerance for shenanigans. Like, I'm not writing off, you know, I'm not writing off $35,000, you know, per month bottle of wine habit like Johnny Depp or anything like that. But yeah, like, for instance, I bought memberships for my family at the local Universal Studios. It's a theme park. But, like, I work in entertainment and entertainment experiences, and I've had to draw all these types of characters before. They have a Secret Life of Pets experience there. I have storyboarded commercials for Secret Life of Pets toys. It's all related. All related. I think I went too far on my putting light here on this guy. I'd dial it back a little bit. So when you set up your thing, are you going to use LegalZoom, or do you have some other... LegalZoom is what I used, and I didn't have a problem with it. My CPA that I had afterward was a little annoyed because he was perfectly willing to do the same work and charge me, you know, to get that money. The $700 I gave LegalZoom, he would have happily taken for himself and done the same work. But he didn't hold it against me. Or I should say they. There's a male owner, but he mostly is an overseer of stuff that the staff of mostly hardworking women are taking care of. But I'm okay with that. All things considered, I'd rather be less on the radar of the person who handles the tough stuff. Andy says, going to use Busy this time. It was an incorporation file when I used it last, and it's way cheaper than when I paid a lawyer my first time to set it up. Yeah, okay. $400-ish for the ink file. You must mean like incorporation filing versus $1,500 for a lawyer to do the same thing. Okay. Is it an LLC? The website was called Inkfile. Interesting. INCFILE, like LegalZoom. Okay. They were bought out, I think, and now they're Busy. Okay. Busy. Oh, I didn't really ask anything super critical. I don't remember if I did. Do a quick save. Sort of done a bad job-ish of setting up how I want some of these background details to look. I sort of phoned it in. I guess I have to keep reminding myself that, like, here, this is the thumbnail, the sketch thumbnail. So most of what's in the background is actually going to sort of dissolve away as atmosphere, or speed lines, or just sort of particles, dust, smoke. It's not really about the background, and yet I do still kind of want to get the practice in. I don't mind thinking of this stuff as building up layers and effects, and because who knows, I might change my mind about how the background looks, and it might look better if I have more details in the end. I don't know. I'd be ashamed to lose everything in the background. Yeah. So that's why I didn't like get too... I guess it's like I did that to protect myself from losing time on useless bits of work, knowing that it was going to sort of be obliterated by what was happening in the foreground. It then makes sense to not have too much. I'm not gonna waste time drawing something cool, and yet now that it's here and I enjoy it, seeing opportunities for, you know, redemption, which sort of makes me a little bit interested. What could be the case? What would go there? How would I make that look cool? You can do whatever you want. Something new. That's true. At the last second, change it up, add something else in there. Maybe blur Link instead. Make that BG the focus. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Fuck Link. Who cares? He sucks. No one likes him. Yeah, right now the background is really drawing the eye. It's cool. Well, I want the hand to be like I could. I think this would be a good candidate for it, but put some tilt shift on the composition. The gamer perspective is all about the threat of the bad guys. Like, I agree, like the Zelda appeal for me is about getting the cool items and seeing the cool bad guys. You know, who's in, who's out. Solving the cool dungeons. Did you see this one? So this turned out really good, but the rain. Oh, sorry, but the rain was a last minute. Not last minute, but it was not part of the original composition, and it looks good, and it was well received too. It's sort of funny, like this is an experiment where I'm like, okay, you know, doing this, I'm like, okay, Twitch getting like, you know, no views, it's okay, you know, whatever. I'll put it on Instagram, you know, trying to do what I can to make Instagram work, and getting like, you know, 30 likes, 50 likes. I'm like, okay, a little bit better. And then I I've been posting these on Reddit too, and some of them were like, okay, no one cares, no one cares, no one cares. This one got 1,500 upvotes and was shared like 100 times with a 100. What it says, it's like 100% upvote ratio, which is like, okay. Wouldn't necessarily have guessed that like Reddit would be the fertile. I mean, they have a Zelda subreddit, so of course it makes sense. But the you know, a little traction there. That was kind of cool. Like, can lightning strike twice? The not every platform is right for all content. Yeah, I'm fairly confident that I can make content that audiences will like, but finding the right audience. When you find one that works for you and your content, lean in that platform, yeah. Yeah, it was on Reddit. And it was only like 3 people who commented this, but there were like 50 comments, and at least two people were like, "Can I get how much for a signed framed print of this?" And I was like, okay, you know, I don't know if I'm quite ready to do that yet, but but that's better than a stick in the eye. Yeah. Dude, Catterprint? Here. Andy has posted a link. This won't open? Maybe... Catprint? Catprint. Okay. That's who you use for prints. Okay, I will add this to my list of links that I will link and link to. You've used them for years for all of your prints. I will maybe do a test print. It must be reasonable. I appreciate that tip. I'm really starting like from scratch with a lot of this stuff. Like when I started my business, like DeviantArt was a new thing. Like it wasn't like DeviantArt was a site that like looked like no one was ever going to use it. So I made my own website instead and kind of never looked back. Years later, like I was like, what the hell? Like DeviantArt, like there's stuff everywhere. People are like world famous on this site now. What is going on? I chose right. I think I did, but also like it is you know, these are like sliding doors. Like at a time when, you know, starting a website, paying for it myself, like there weren't, GoDaddy didn't exist. I had to do all of it like the hard way, essentially. And taught myself a little HTML and stuff like that. None of that's particularly fun or easy, but you know, you do what you can. And yeah. Well, DeviantArt, Facebook, Twitter. Well, what I didn't like about DeviantArt and a lot of social media sites is, and Twitter's kind of this way too, is I'll see like, oh, it's like, oh, that's a cool piece of art, but the person who posted it isn't the one who made it. Like it's like reposting is good, I guess, except when you repost or when you steal the content, you can still just post it as if it was your own. So it's like content theft, and you know, it's like whatever. But it's like, I'm like, okay, that's tricky. Same with YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, there's a big like the reality is, and in a weird way, it's like I'm part of the problem, because like a lot of the YouTube content, because I'm like, okay, I'm doing research on how to like not screw up being a streamer and social media, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch like these downfall compilations of all these streamers or whatever, and so it's like slop content basically, and people just commenting on stuff that other people are doing, but here I am consuming it, you know. It's like the paparazzi of the internet. Embarrassing, compromising photos of so-and-so. Not consistently personable enough for social media success. I think you are. I like your you're at least as personable as Sergeant Slaughter or Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah. I'll get you in on one of my streams one day. We'll do some voice chat or do whatever. You know, I've done it with Zach at least once or twice. You may not be demure or anything, whatever trend these days might be, you know, but like I know that I can like mention something and you'll be like, ooh, I have something to say about that, and then it's and you can totally pop off, and you know, you'll get clipped, you'll be internet famous for being cringe, etc., etc. Same as me. We can hop into Discord anytime. I only have like another 20 minutes, but let's do it sometime. Next time you see me online being lonely, you can live cringe. I'm the definition of cringe. I'm like a crotchety millennial. I'm practically boomer. You know, kids these days talk about like 9/11 like it's like ancient history, and I'm like, holy moly, dude! Like that shit's raw. It's still real. It's still real for me. I remember the 80s, the 90s. Those were weird times. The stuff people get canceled for now, I'm like, that's like the entirety of the 90s. That's like literally all of the 90s and 80s was the kind of behavior that like it's like can't be acceptable now. I'm like, what would today's people think of Bart Simpson? I guess like Bart Simpson is still existing and stuff, but like, let's see, I'm an opinionated, burned out, former gifted kid with a catalog of concussions. That's exactly right. I like that. That's your like byline, basically. Here, I'm gonna. This is funny stuff. Here, we'll do it right here. Here's Andy. Everybody follow Andy Gray art. That's funny. I know you're no relation, but have you heard of the artist Alex Gray? You've probably seen his work. If not, you don't think so? You've seen his work, I'm sure, on... he did that pretty famous trippy album cover for Tool. Can I zoom in enough to make this... He sort of originated, in some ways, the westernized... I mean, I don't know if he originated this aesthetic, but lateral ice art. Yeah, the... I think that's true. He's very... Like, he was one of those guys that, like... He was just weird, and then worked as an artist being weird, and then took LSD, and then, like, unlocked his third eye, and now, you know... And you could say, like, a lot of this is gimmick, but he's extremely prolific, and he's never really wavered, as far as I could tell, in, like, his message or all this stuff, so, you know, hopefully he doesn't end up getting canceled. He's pretty fairly, like, some of this stuff, you could look back and be like, okay, well, you know, that's, yeah, here's the Tool album. Or some of this art is, at least, but anyway, it's interesting stuff. When I used to date a girl who was into... Hey Ben, how are you? We were just... I was on the verge of making a joke about Andy Gray being related to Alex Gray, but they not only spell their names differently, but I know Alex Gray was named a different... His last name was different, and he changed it to Gray. He changed it to Gray because he wanted it to be something that felt like the synthesis of opposites. So black and white synthesized, you know, blended together makes gray, right? And you know, he used to do... Yeah, he's older now. It's interesting. Well, hopefully he's still doing cool stuff. But he's got installations like all over the globe. Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, if you ever heard of that. It's pretty cool. Anyway, Ben, I'm working on this. Not for too much longer, but a little bit longer. We're adding details to a background that will subsequently be covered with flames and dust and stuff that will completely make it useless that I drew a background at all. But I guess this is true. This is what's true, and here's why I'm doing it. Is because having a background that feels real will make it easier for me to have a convincing sense of space about the environment, and that the subjects are in. Like, I'll have a reference point for the scale, and then I'm not obligated either to completely fill in the background with fire in order to cover up something I didn't do. Wherever I don't add fire is cool existing background that is worth looking at if I choose to leave it be. Ben, I might have Andy on my little... We'll do a Discord. I don't think it's a might at this point. The world needs... The world needs the hyper-masculinized Andy Gray. We need guns. We need to bring in the big guns for the audience. The world needs to know. This is important. We do. I like Andy's ability to take a little good-natured ribbing, and then that will be. And then this will be my contribution. Is my here's me. I should be Pee Wee Herman for Halloween sometime. I could do this. I could do that sometime. That'll be funny. No. Andy is an opinionated, burned out, former gifted kid with a catalog of concussions. Former gifted kid and catalog with concussions is something that just absolutely rolls off the tongue. Andy can come on the stream. We'll pretend to have beef. We'll like start some synthetic beef. You know, highly manufactured, curated beef that yeah. Some turkey burger, yeah. Little Impossible beef. Yeah. We'll see. We'll start a podcast. We'll call it The Butcher Shop. The Beefery. My old dwarf eyes can... I like how you said that. This isn't Photoshop, this is Painter. Painter is like a Photoshop compatible program. Painter is a program that it had its indie origin, and then it was acquired by Corel. And Corel is like a very I think they were well placed in like the Mac market for a while. Corel is like the publisher of like WordPerfect. I got to mess with it once back in college. Painter sort of stood out as it was a standout in terms of its brush engine at the time. And still now to this day, the brush engine is more comparable to something you would find in Procreate. And especially compared to Photoshop, I feel like it has a little bit of an edge on some of the. Then never saw it on a computer again. Yeah. My story with Painter is the stuff of legends, because it's like when I, there was a time I was a computer repairman and I was dropping off a computer system. I was like 20 years old. I was dropping off a computer system that I had put together for I worked for a Mac reseller. So, like most people who owned Macs, even back in the early 2000s, people didn't know how to operate their computers for the most part. They would just be like, hey, I only know how to work on a computer. I don't know how to install stuff or download stuff or whatever. I'm a creative professional. People wanted turnkey solutions, and so there was a market for that, and I worked for a reseller like that, and I installed Corel Painter and installed the Wacom drivers and installed the basically I put together a turnkey solution for this artist without even really knowing the program. I was just like, okay, I'll just install all this stuff per the specs and then drop it off. And I go and I dropped it off, and he's like, thanks. And I'm like, you know, I plugged it all in, make sure the computer turned on. And he was like, hey, can you hang out one more minute to make sure that the program loads properly, it doesn't crash if I you know, have it running on like a high setting or something like that. I was like, yeah, sure. So I watched him, and the program that he was using was Painter, and his whole job was to rotoscope out. He was just painting out the little puppeting lines from like a puppet show pitch. It was just a pitch for, I'll just say, it was literally like a reboot of Alvin and the Chipmunks that was being put together as a pitch in the early 2000s. With live action, but with puppets. And so Alvin is like a puppet, whatever. And they've got the Muppet puppet stuff, so you got the sticks. But they wanted it to feel a little more real, so they're like, let's paint out these, we'll rotoscope out the black sticks or whatever, the puppeteering sticks. And that was this guy's job. And like, he was using Painter, and I saw him using like tools in a way that I was like, wow, those tools look really fluid. I'd never really seen someone using Photoshop to that proficiency. And I complimented him, like, hey, that's really cool. And he's like, that's nothing, check this out. And he started demonstrating all these interesting special effects that you could do with Painter. Some of the built-in tools with Painter at the time were extremely impressive. And I was like, this Painter stuff is the coolest thing ever. And he's like, yeah, man, this is an awesome gig. I just get high all day, listen to music, and paint out these little puppet bits. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. And I looked around, like, he had a nice house in the Hollywood Hills, and like his wife wasn't there, but I could see a picture of her, and I was like, she's pretty hot, you know. I was like, damn, you're living the life, dude. Yeah, he had the life. And I was like, I'm like, okay, let me pack up my computer shit. And I'm like, because even at that age, like I was 20, but I was like, I'm a better artist than that guy. Like, I'm in the wrong gig, absolutely the wrong gig. And because previously I had an issue where when I was young, I wanted to repudiate. I had like a head of someone who was not, I was not into the idea of being an artist unless I could be like a sincere creative genius, like Renaissance artist of old or whatever. I wanted to take it extremely seriously. But what I found out was how incredibly cynical and sort of, I don't know if it's like corporate, but it's very, you know, a lot of what is in an art gallery is like, a lot of art gallery stuff is like bullshit, or it's not really like, the artists aren't really that amazing. They just have a shtick, and they do their shtick, and people gobble it up because they don't know that a shtick is a shtick. They think, you know, they're like, oh, real magic, you know. It's like, no, it's a performance, and you know, there's nothing special about that. You guys are being fooled, or you know, to me, it's like if I was a successful artist, but I got there by bamboozling people with kitsch. You know, I wanted to be like the anti-Thomas Kinkade if I could, and but everywhere I looked, I would see things that I was like, well, that's just being a different version of a Thomas Kinkade. Let me pull this up, because not everybody gets the reference. But when I was in my formative years, even among artists, there was great derision for this man's ability to succeed commercially by essentially Blonde Jesus equals Thomas Kinkade. Ben is correct. This is the aesthetic here. In a real way, we have Thomas Kinkade to thank for uniting the right. In every MAGA household, we've got Thomas Kinkade hanging in there, hanging next to the cross, and Now this guy could paint, like he's a good painter. Good painter. But then he turned to the dark side and utilized factory painting techniques, and we all have our own, like, whatever, like if you make a trillion signed prints, or, you know, there's like, all artists have had their thing where they're like, fine, I'll just cash in, sell out, cash in, and all that stuff. Dali did it, Picasso did it, all that stuff. You know, but this guy, I think it's just painful to go into, like, someone's at every garage sale or estate sale, there's Thomas Kincaid, and it's all there. We all know what it is, and that the aesthetic and what it means. What I love is that Thomas Kincaid, and it's like, what I love is, I'm not sure if this is even Kincaid or if it's AI. It's like the same aesthetic now, right? This is why they call this boomer art, you know? I don't mind Kincaid cashing in. I just get irritated when people use their work as their basis for like what art is as a whole. I think the cashing in is fine. It's you can be, well, this is, I mean, Thomas Kincaid did his shtick before the internet and stuff like that, but I just don't, not enough was known, like, enough is known about this man's personal life to know that he is the opposite of Christ-like. So for him to hypocritically espouse or evoke, like, the symbolism of Jesus and Christianity in a very it's just a corruption of the thing, and that's what I don't like. It's like, if art is important to you, like, try not to be like cynical, or like set a good example or something like that. That is one thing I do like about the Alex Gray. Like, this guy is like the opposite, and, you know, I don't really know much about his personal life other than he's a vegetarian. He did LSD once, and as far as I know, he never did it again. You know, it was like all he needed to do was that one time, and then he was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this now. And he and this is an interesting book. I've read this book, The Mission of Art. It was very, like, it's like sort of seeing the artist as a shaman from a shamanistic bent, like evoking like the from the inspirational realm to, you know, an experience you can share with other people. You know, it's a great power. Like, how do we do this responsibly and whatever. So it's part biography and part his sort of artistic statement. The prose is almost indecipherably, you know, obfuscated. It's written in a way that is very, like, you know, you're like, it's a little cringe. It takes it a little bit too seriously, sacredness and all that stuff. But the man is talented. He was doing this stuff before it was cool. And yeah, it's neat. So, boo Thomas Kincaid. Yes to Alex Gray. Yes to Andy Gray. And that's my thing. But like, what I realized back in the day, like when I was fine with getting into So I sort of repudiated art as a career. I was like, I'll just do art for my own personal sake, and I'll keep it pure that way. Then I realized, I'm like, with enough experience, I realized that, like, okay, art as something that was pure was never something that existed. That itself was an illusion. I'm not going to make art, whether or not it's a good idea to keep oneself, you know, and one's mission with art pure or whatever, like non-commercialized, essentially. That's a choice I can make. but me making that choice won't turn, you know, the more you know about like Michelangelo, incredibly gifted guy, totally used his talent to, you know, get what he wanted in life and make money as much as he could to live as comfortable as anybody could. Ultimately, it was sort of like a privileged, bougie, you know, perspective to have, where it's like, well, my art is going to be pure. It's like, okay, yeah, but you got bills to pay, kid. And he says, I would love to be that kind of thoughtful, introspective artist that finds some kind of sacredness in it, but I'm a filthy heathen. Yeah, eventually I came around to... I'm projecting onto people beliefs that they never had. So, like, I'm not doing anybody any good service, and then I realized, I'm like, if I get into digital art, then it's not really physically real. It's just this sort of like idea of a thing, and people aren't going to really take digital art as seriously as they would like the Michelangelo's David, for instance, like the high art. I'm just sort of like, you know, setting myself up to not be a part of that, but that way makes it okay for me to do it for a living, because I'm doing that way. At least I'm not, essentially I got into commercials because it sat well with my conscience to not pull a fast one on people that they weren't buying something that was sacred or part of any sort of realistic artistic tradition, that it was something that, like, okay, this is a means to an end, it communicates something quickly, it's easily digestible, and isn't supposed to change your life. And that sat well with my conscience just fine. Okay, even in here in the far background, I'm going to add a little bit more of the effect of the light. Anyways, sorry about my big spiel. From time to time, I like to revisit the lore of Max. When I hopped on this stream, my intention was to... You grew up in a print shop, so you always saw art as commercial. My perspective as art as something special came from my mother. Not in a direct way, but she had a real reverence for her attitudes about art and the ability to like create a composition that is really meaningful. I have some drawings of my mother's, actually. Let's see if I can find those. I wonder if I can find them quick. Oh, found it. Okay. It's like these influences matter. With all the subtext, like with my mom's input on this stuff, the I mean, everything she drew in this fucking book is... So my mom is probably early 20s or a teenager here. Here, let me make this big. We can see some of this stuff. Here, we can look at some of this stuff. Her just sort of... Some of this stuff is like... There's not like a wasted page in this notebook. These are all studies, of course. Just different types of... Right, like these... This is like a... This is like a study of like a Rubens. You know, and I can tell that she's like emulating the line quality and stuff like that. But like, Like, look at that. Can we see this stuff? Like the cross-hatching? Like the light is making it super weird. But you can see the, like the modeling, even just the reflected light under the nostrils. That's page 1. I don't know what this is taken from, but it's just really cool. You know, this is just pencil in a, that's page 2. Like, there's no wasted page here. I guess this was like portrait drawn. All of this is amazing. Every single page is amazing. And it's like her first time trying like these different abstract styles. And then, you know, then after being perfect, she's perfectly willing to like try something silly. You know, she's like, oh, you need something that looks like it's like an editorial cartoon? It's like, cool, I got you covered. You know, so this is... Now, I have notebooks that are good like this, like my own, but not good like this. Like, this is... You know, you can see it's just effortless. It's just like... And what's funny is, like, her... Because this evokes a sense of, like, being drawn from life. But you can tell it's just very effortless. Like, nothing is, no labor. And I'm just turning the pages here. There's no, like, looking to find a good one. They're all good. It's just page after page after page after page. The next page. Every page is like this. And it just doesn't stop. You know... And it's like, okay, here, this one sucks, but it's because she explained that the teacher wanted her to use her opposite hand, so that threw her for a loop. But you know, it's like back at it the next day with like something like this. It just keeps going. Here, I'll wait. Let me find one that's like crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah, we had this little run where she was like using her right hand. And they're all really good. It's just sort of like... Like sort of drawing different types of styles. You can see there's like nothing precious about it at all. You know, to me or anybody else, like this would be... You know, you could see it going in a, like being in the New Yorker or something like that. My mother, poor mother, reduced to drawing children's programming, like Alvin and the Chipmunks and stuff like that. Talent like this, you know, it's crazy. Like funny, like El Greco stuff. So that's her at like 20. Being the best artist in the class on like her first class. Eventually, like she told me her teacher was cruel, drew like shit and ridiculed her in front of everybody, and like it's like, are you kidding me? So like like a person who is capable of that going into just an uncaring world of like, well, you know, you'll never be good or something. It's like, whoa, dude. Like, it's like step back. Like the whole notebook is like that. That's like 10, 15 pages I showed you. I don't know how I couldn't look through the whole thing. It's like crazy. But if you look through, it just keeps going and going and going. Going and going and going. Alright. But anyway, You gotta make money eventually. She started working at Ruby Spears on Alvin and the Chipmunks, just drawing animation cells and storyboards, and made a living that way, so that's good. Then I came along and fucked it all up. It's good amount of Max lore right there. What I am happy about is, okay, so with that, like, with that sort of background, like my mom being like that, it was sort of subtly implied that, you know, art can be more important than just, you know, making a living or something. I don't know. Like, she never stopped making that kind of stuff or having the passion for those classical influences. And so that seeped into me. Now, whether or not Rembrandt really passionately cared about art, or if he just really wanted to, you know, pay his bills and get on with life the way he probably did. I see stuff like that and I'm reminded why I get furious about artists being told you're so talented instead of you've worked so hard. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, you know, you can imagine being, you know, the 80s being what it was. Like, I mean, she probably couldn't have qualified for a credit card when she did that stuff. The sexism and all that stuff at the time was really considerable. It was, women in animation circles were like non-existent. Oh, here, let me tap back into this thing. Anyway, I am gonna finish up in just a second or so, but that's a little bit of the old story time moment with Max. But I couldn't help see what she was capable of and realize it's like, okay, there's all sorts of artists in the world and everybody can have different attitudes about it. But like, when you don't burn out, I don't think, if you can find stuff like that to inspire you. She had a sort of religiousness with it and took it seriously, even though she had to make her living doing it with in like the cartooning industry. She brought that skill into her storyboards, and maybe next time I can actually pull up some of her storyboards because I have some of those too. But her confidence and her fluency and her gesture, all of the talent that is in those drawings is in her drawings that's used in her storyboards too. Her storyboards are, I mean, I can't evaluate them as to whether or not they're perfect storyboards for like animation or whatever. I've seen all kinds of different drawing styles, but hers have a quality that is distinct to her and very impressive. And saw her well throughout her entire career, so, and did well for our family because of it. So I've always sort of seen the utility in taking art seriously, and then when I found a path where I could reconcile it with my childish need to not feeling like I was doing some sort of self-deception, then I think I'm okay. Even in this, am I deceiving myself here? Is the stuff I'm doing have any worth whatsoever? It's a bit of a uncharted territory for me to assume that anybody wants to listen to what I have to say or see what I have to show. But we're going to find out. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen, and the hard part is we have to sort of do it the hard way. It's a little bit of the hard way. Okay, I'm going to split us up into 50-50, so we get a save that, and then pull it up here, make it big and big in it. drag it over a little. That looks cool. I'll just make like a goofy face. That's perfect. Thumbnail achieved. Perfection. All right, Andy, thanks for keeping me company. Ben, thanks for popping in. Sorry for my long-winded statements. Next time, maybe tomorrow morning, I'm going to start adding the fire. So the crazy flames of light and everything that comes with it will explode in the background, destroy everything that I've worked hard to create. And that'll be fun to do. All right. Thanks for popping in. Adios.